Good evening and welcome to the LaRouche Organization Weekly Battle Report. This is the report for Wednesday, July 23rd. I'm Michelle Aaron, your host. Tonight's report will cover organizing by the LaRouche Organization to end the ongoing genocide in Gaza. A statement from TLO President Diane Serre on the breaking revelations from Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard on the real perpetrators of Russiagate, the Obama administration. We will watch a significant intervention by youth activist Kynan Thistlethwaite, where he introduced an image of peace into a meeting among peace activists. We'll see field reports from Massachusetts, Virginia, and France, and then we'll look at the explosion of media coverage of the recent July 12th through 13th Schiller Institute Berlin conference. But first, we have a cultural offering from Jeffrey Rebello, who will recite his new poem titled POTUS.
POTUS. What is a POTUS? Is it a sort of potted lotus? Or something divine to which we should devote us? Perhaps the worship of it will promote us? Its being is not mystical, but rather constitutional. To think otherwise would be delusional. Its powers being granted by the whole of us, whereby its granted power over us, are limited within the bounds of law. It's therefore due respect, though not from awe.
Thank you, Jeff. Now let's look at a battle report that we invite you, the viewer, to help create. If you are on the TLO email list, which you can sign up for on the website, you got an email yesterday titled, "End the Siege of Gaza, Intervene at UN Conference with the Oasis Plan." And the email explains that this coming Monday and Tuesday, July 28th and 29th, the long overdue conference for a Palestine-Israel two-state solution convened by France and Saudi Arabia will occur at the United Nations in New York City. The LaRouche Organization and Schiller Institute plan to have a visible street presence and have an in-person meeting in Manhattan this Saturday to plan and prepare. It makes a huge difference to be out in the streets. You see here this photo from Monday of this week where a team of organizers were out in Manhattan. You see here Bruce Todd, a retired millwright, is being interviewed by international press out there on the sidewalk who stopped and wanted to know what we had to say. So please plan, if you are in the New York City metropolitan area or have some means of getting here, to participate. A new TLO Schiller leaflet is now available titled Oasis Plan for Palestine and Israel, Peace Through Mutual Development, which is an excellent leaflet and contains straightforward demands. We include a link to the leaflet in the video description today, or you can just download it right on the LaRouche Organization or Schiller Institute websites. You can distribute this leaflet right away, online, in person, no matter where you live, even if you can't make it to New York City in person. Now we're going straight to a statement from LaRouche Organization President Diane Serre on the recent revelations from Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard of the real Russiagate perpetrators, the Obama administration's 2016 conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people by lying the United States into a confrontation with Russia. This video that we're about to watch now has 90,000 views on TikTok.
What Tulsi Gabbard has just released with regard to Russiagate is absolutely huge, and it's very important. And I want to weigh in on the fact that the people who were involved in this, from Barack Obama to John Kerry to James Comey, James Clapper, Victoria Nuland, Susan Rice, etc., should be immediately indicted, prosecuted, and sent to jail. This was done to destroy the relationship between the United States and Russia, putting us in danger of thermonuclear war. What I'm referring to is that what Gabbard released yesterday is documents that she has obtained that show that in August and September of 2016, the intelligence assessment already was that Russia was not capable, nor were they interested in hacking into the elections and altering the outcome of the elections. She also discovered that the discredited, fraudulent Christopher Steele dossier was used in making these fraudulent claims of Russian involvement in hacking the election, which Donald Trump won. He won because Hillary Clinton was a horrible warmongering candidate, not because of Russian interference. But here's the bombshell. On December 8th, in the President's Daily Brief, a brief was about to be given to President Obama, which said that they had determined that Russia was not capable and not interested in hacking the U.S. elections, and whoever was the Daily Brief writer that day from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, their name is redacted, ordered that that brief not be given to President Obama. It was withheld, and then the White House had a meeting the following day with those people that I just mentioned, deciding that they were going to spin the coverage. They then leaked to the press all of these falsehoods about Russian meddling in the U.S. elections. I don't know why it isn't obvious to people that Hillary Clinton was a horrible candidate. She was having secret meetings with Goldman Sachs, getting paid $300,000 a pop. She was calling for a no-fly zone over Syria, which meant we would have been in war with Russia immediately. I'm hoping that knowledge of Gabbard's impending decision to release these files is one of the reasons why President Trump asked for a 50-day deadline to resolve the Russia-Ukraine crisis. I think he needs some maneuvering room, and you see the treasonous senators Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal colluding with Zelensky, and I'm sure under the direction of King Charles, to make Ukraine intransigent, but to blame it on Putin. Also, Seymour Hersh has written an article saying that he thinks that there are plans afoot for Zelensky to be removed, which would make it much easier for the negotiations to proceed, since Zelensky is not the legitimate president of Ukraine because he canceled the elections. So this is all very, very interesting. I think we need to go after these people who were involved in spreading this disinformation, because this was not merely an election lie. It destroyed the relationship between two nuclear superpowers, and that puts the entire world in danger.
Now, youth activist Kynan Thistlethwaite made an important intervention at a Zoom meeting held last Wednesday, June 16th, on the 80th anniversary of the first nuclear test, Trinity. The meeting was hosted by activists from the Hiroshima-Nagasaki Peace Committee in partnership with Ellen Thomas of Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. The meeting, with 100 participants, was moderated by John Steinbach of the Hiroshima-Nagasaki Peace Committee. Steinbach has addressed several meetings of the International Peace Coalition. Kynan was the second participant to be called on in the discussion period. In his remarks, he first described his work with Dr. Akiko Mikamo to distribute her film titled 815, A True Story of Survival and Forgiveness from Hiroshima. The film tells the story of her father, Hiroshima survivor Shinji, who, despite horrific suffering, said of his experience the following: "Our city was forever changed. There could be no doubt of that. But I saw nothing good to come from holding tight to animosity, from focusing on the past instead of the future. No good would come from narrowing our eyes to the complicated and vehement disposition that had engaged so much of the world at war. These were the blinders that provoked conflict, not soothed it. I wanted to look forward. I wanted to see enemies become allies. I wanted peace." Then, in an approach which was unique at this event, Kynan introduced a perspective for how to create a world which is no longer on the precipice of thermonuclear war.
Shinji has worked so hard to achieve such a world. He's passed away, but despite the fact that he had, and you can kind of see it there, he believed that the use of the atomic bomb was unjust, but he also refused to submit to hate against the United States for dropping it. And the Schiller Institute, which I work with, they're committed to the policy of a new security and development architecture among all nations. And we're organizing for this in collaborations with leaders across the world, such as Dr. Naledi Pandor. She's the former Minister of International Relations and Cooperation from South Africa. And we're doing this because it's only through a commitment to economic development and win-win cooperation that the threat of nuclear war will be abated. And if the US, the nations of Europe, and others were to work with the BRICS nations who are seeking to build a multipolar world as opposed to a unipolar one, we could actually set the basis for avoiding future wars. I'll just end by quoting from our chairwoman, Helga Zepp-LaRouche, from her 10 principles for a new security and development architecture. And the last of these are totally in line with Shinji Mikamo's philosophy of the goodness of mankind. And it states, the basic assumption for the new paradigm is that man is fundamentally good and capable to infinitely perfect the creativity of his mind and the beauty of his soul, and that all evil is a result of a lack of development and therefore can be overcome. A new order is emerging involving the vast majorities of the countries of the global south. Europe and the US must not fight this effort, but by joining hands with the developing countries, cooperate to shape the next epoch of the development of the human species to become a renaissance of the highest and most noble expressions of creativity. So I'll just leave off with that. We're continuing our work with Dr. Akiko Mikamo for those interested, since it's the 80th anniversary of the bombings, and we're going to show her film to more people to teach these lessons of forgiveness and empathy, which everyone must understand. And I would also add that people should join in on the International Peace Coalition meetings, which are every Friday at 11 a.m. So thanks, John, for letting me speak.
Yeah, well, thank you, Kynan. And this is just a reminder to all of us that we need to be reaching out to the youth, because the youth are our future. Many of us are gray beards, in our 70s and even 80s. So I'm really glad you could join us, Kynan.
Thank you, Kynan. Now we have a few field reports. First, a brief word from Richard Burden, campaigning last Friday in Virginia with a book table, big optimistic signs that were telling people the US must join the BRICS and that there's no future in perpetual war that's against the global majority.
Good morning. This is Richard Burden, together with Joe Billington, July 18th, Friday. So we're just telling everybody here, the United States needs to join the BRICS. There's no future in perpetual war against the global majority, global South, future of the world and the future of economic development.
Now, up in Massachusetts, last Friday, Bill Ferguson was out campaigning in front of the Boston Federal Reserve building with signs, leaflets, and joined by activists. A report from that occasion is that two different young people came up asking, "Is this from LaRouche?" And they happily took the leaflets. And at least 6 people walked by and then came back to take a leaflet, having changed their mind. So we'll have a brief word from Bill.
Hi, I'm out here across from the Federal Reserve, one of the institutions that we've got to reform to prevent nuclear war. This is Bill Ferguson, your Minuteman in Boston. Be seeing you tomorrow as well.
Thank you, Bill. Now we have a report from France. This report was given live during last Friday's meeting of the International Peace Coalition from the streets of Paris. Sébastien Drochon talks on the organizing that they're doing coming out of the Berlin conference. The French movement had brought a very large delegation of people to the conference, including young people, who they're mobilizing right away to get out in the streets organizing.
Now, I am in Paris. I'm going to give you a report on the field because we are deploying in Paris just after the Berlin conference. We invited our Mexican friend Carolina here in Paris. She's deploying right now. You see our field deployment with some banners. It's with Solidarité et Progrès, a partner also of the Schiller Institute, and we have also the Schiller Institute coming here. So we're here just to to give a sense of what was the conference in Berlin, what was the huge event with the participation of all the people of the world defending this project for peace. So, and we're deploying just to bring the solutions. So you can see, here the people are discussing with young people. So we have to recruit these young people to the fight. Not always easy, but good reactions also with this, banner here. And after I let, okay, so you have, this ironical banner where we say that what happened to Iraq is now happening to Iran, and we don't have to do that again. So that's all. So we are here with our friends, activists, and we're continuing to fight. So thank you very much, and let's do it again. Let's continue this fight. Thank you from Paris. Bye.
Thank you, Sébastien. Now we have a bunch of LaRouche in the news as coverage has continued to come out of the July 12th through 13th Berlin Schiller Institute conference from news outlets all over the world. And this includes many articles from different outlets, different writers, where the authors comprehensively cover the content, the idea from each of the speakers of the conference and indicate the room dynamic. This shows, rather than just a simple blurb that maybe encompasses the conference in 3 seconds, this approach shows the seriousness with which they took the event and its mission. So we have some samples here from India, Swiss nation, and Germany. On Friday, the Times of India published an article about the conference written by Mr. Mishra, an Indian journalist and teacher now living in Denmark, who attended the conference. The Times of India is the 3rd largest newspaper in India by circulation and the largest selling English language daily in the world. Published under the title, "Is Europe Becoming Frontline of Military Battlefield Against Russia?" Mishra referred to the current existential confrontation between Western countries and Russia, as described by the speakers of at the conference, Ray McGovern and Dmitry Trainin, and he quoted Helga Zepp-LaRouche. He said, in her keynote address, Helga Zepp-LaRouche, founder of the Schiller Institute, traced the historical forces that have led us to this dangerous precipice. She warned that we are at a punctum saliens, a critical inflection point in history comparable to the years preceding the First and Second World Wars. And he says, the message is clear, we must act. I found the following very interesting from him. It was deeply moving to see American peace activists standing shoulder to shoulder with others from around the world, united by the conviction that a more cooperative and just global order is still within reach. So Mishra also called on readers to remember the legacy of Nelson Mandela. Today, the day he published the article, was Nelson Mandela Day, as expressed by former South African Foreign Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor in her conference address. Mandela continues to inspire global conversations about justice, dignity, and reconciliation. And Mishra reminded us that our fates are intertwined. Peace in one region fosters peace everywhere. Conflict in one region sends tremors throughout the entire world. The author, who spent half his life in India and the other half in Sweden and Denmark, concluded, Europe should reclaim its independent voice, one rooted in diplomacy, dignity, and balance. It must help shape a multilateral world where all nations are heard and respected, and where the global South is finally given the space and justice it needs to heal from centuries of colonialism, exploitation, and racism. Now, in one example of coverage in the German media, the conference was covered by the German weekly newspaper Democratic Resistance. On this past Saturday, July 19th, they published post-Berlin conference interviews done on the sideline of the conference with Helga Zepp-LaRouche, and another interview done with a speaker at the conference, German Armed Forces retired Major General Florian Pfaff. So in the video interview, which you see a screenshot of here, the author Anselm Lenz asked if she thought the conference was a success. Mrs. Zepp-LaRouche replied that she thinks the conference was a success first by conveying a way for Europe out of the geopolitical hell, that the alternative to the approach now pushed of rearm Europe is to work with the global South, which is ready to end 500 years of colonialism. Germany and Europe can work with the BRICS nations in joint ventures for the industrialization of Africa in areas of electrification, development of infrastructure, and such game-changing projects that will develop water and energy supply. And the author also published an interview with this retired general, Major Florian Pfaff, under the headline, "The Anti-Social Media Do Not Want These Topics." And he comments, the author comments, that the aim of the conference was intended to have a free exchange of opinions that goes beyond stating opinions to actually addressing and discussing them. Now, a Swiss website also covered the conference. An article whose title in English is "A Search for a Just World Order and the Elephant in the Room" by Thilo Graeser. I personally very much enjoyed the conference, this article by Thilo Graeser. He attended the whole first day of the conference and covers in his article the leading arguments of all of the speakers that day. He described it as a 2-day conference in Berlin sought ways to reshape international relations. This was accompanied by a clear critique of Western dominance in the world. And we include a link to this article and all 3 of these articles that we've mentioned, 3 or 4 articles, in the video description. And for the ones in German or other languages, your Google browser translate might help you out there if you're not already fluent in these other languages. So we have seen tonight that the LaRouche Organization continues to organize and lead in a wide variety of organizing domains. We're intervening into Zoom conferences, as Kynan Thistlethwaite did, online outreach, as with Diane Sayre's TikTok video circulation, the in-person international conference just held in Berlin, which is still making waves through media coverage and recirculation of the conference proceedings, and field deployments done in the United States and in Europe. Once again, if you can make it into the New York City metropolitan area over this coming weekend, and this coming Monday and Tuesday especially, please do so. If you can't make it in person, other actions that you can take wherever you are include circulate the new leaflet digitally, in person, handed out everywhere. You can donate, support the activities of the LaRouche movement. We need your financial support. And as you're organizing over the coming week, take some photos, take some videos, do a report, and send your reports in to info@laroucheorganization.com. We look forward to hearing your reports. That's what we have for this evening. See you next